Okay, so I'm about to have a quick chat with Susan from Trailhead. She's the producer behind this film, nominated film at Nice, so congratulations, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. So
Yeah.
Susan, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us how you're connected to Trailhead, please.
Sure, my name's Susan Forsyth Craig, and my film partner and I have a production company called Mississippi Sound Film Productions. I produce Trailhead, and my film partner, Micah L., is the director. We went out to the Mojave Desert in eastern California, near Joshua Tree and 29 Palms, and filmed on location in the desert.
Nice and hot.
Very hot,
Yeah.
and very sunny.
Yeah, very sunny, yeah.
And the story is about, it's a narrative drama, a short, and the story is about a young American couple, Jonas and Silva, who have had relationship problems, and the relationship is pretty broken, so they decide to take a month-long hike and try and repair it. And as they're hiking, issues, it starts out very happy for them, and they meet a couple of mysterious hikers along the trail, and some issues arise for them, and they have to kind of decide where their relationship is heading, and it doesn't all pan out as one of them might expect.
Okay. Now normally I'd ask why you decided to make this film, but we're going to twist that slightly to say, I'm guessing that you've seen lots of scripts and have lots of stories that are pitched to you. Not necessarily about this film, although this could be a prime example. What would have to grab you from anything you see? Because, I don't know, how can I say? What's that golden thing that a script? Because I guess everyone is different. But
right.
What hits you when you would go, yeah, that's for us?
For me, it's about relationships, because I think no matter what your genre is, it basically, for me, it comes down to a relationship. Maybe with another individual, maybe not. So for me, that's kind of what grabs my interest in a story.
And is Trailhead a typical example of that? I guess it must be.
Yeah, I think so. The location was very important, to the story, but and somewhat of a metaphor. The desert is a very unique beauty, and what appears to be very prickly. We filmed when it was blooming, so there was also great beauty.
Lovely.
The Joshua trees were blooming,
Yeah.
etc. So we felt that was sort of a metaphor for the relation, the good and bad, the yin and yang of a relationship. So that's kind of what grabbed me about this story.
And any problem, because there was another film here, and the woman shot in Death Valley. Just happened to be a time when it wasn't too hot, which is surprising because I thought it was always boiling hot. But I guess you've always got to be mindful. Of course, you've got to be mindful of locations. I know you must account for every possibility.
Right.
But particularly shooting somewhere like a desert.
Yeah, there were some. It was very tricky with lighting, that was a bit of a learning experience, not having shot in the desert before.
Well, because it's going to be so bright.
It's so bright, right? And you can control it to a certain extent. Of course, we tried to film, early in the day and late in the day as much as we could, but it wasn't always possible. We only had our cast for 5 days. Of course, we shot longer than that to get extra footage, but we shot it was a cast of 4, and we were very lucky actually with the cast. We went out to Los Angeles and auditioned. We had over 300 people submit to audition for the 4 roles.
And you've got to be involved in that.
I was involved in the casting process, yes. So, both the director and I together chose the cast, and we felt very lucky. As a matter of fact, our leading lady is nominated here at this festival.
Right, yeah, of course, yeah.
For Best Leading Lady in a Short, and one of our actors is up for Best Supporting Actor in a Short. And then my filmmaker and I, or my director and I, were nominated for Talented New Filmmaker. So that's very exciting.
Amazing,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And we had another festival as well where we won New Filmmaker and Best Drama Short. So
That's
it's
really
been
good.
very exciting.
Really, really well done.
Yeah.
And when you're going through that, I mean, I know this will swing to lots of filmmakers, that most people just see the glitz and glamour, but I know it's bloody hard work.
Right.
And I guess one of those really hard things to do is, well, there's a couple of things that it's sort of leading me on to. One is, when someone presents you with a script and you green light it, would I be right in assuming that most of the time you will have to adjust that script? And if it comes to adjusting, how do you approach the script writers about, look, we love it, but And what's their reaction?
Right. Well, this is actually my first production, and I did collaborate with the writer on the script as he was writing, and of course then in the editing process, the director and I also edited the film, which was very difficult, and I've learned maybe it's very difficult to cut and edit your own baby.
Because you don't want to snip out anything.
Because you don't want to snip out anything.
Way.
We actually, on our first cut, we're at about 55 minutes, and now the film is 27 minutes, and frankly, I still want to cut a couple minutes out of it.
So is it true? I mean, I've often heard filmmakers say exactly what you said. You've got to be brutal, but by having someone that's separate to it, and they'll just, because they're unconnected, they'll just say no.
Right.
And is that true? And are they genuinely right?
I think it is true, and I think it would be helpful. I kind of wanted to keep control of it, and of course, you still have, the ultimate. After you have an editor, you'd still have that ultimate, say on things. But I think it would be very helpful to have eyes that were not so involved in the initial project to do the initial edit cuts, because it's very difficult when you're too attached to it to cut a scene you really liked or was fun filming, or you just like how they delivered that, but then if it doesn't move the story forward, you need to cut it.
Right. Okay. Is that a good? Is that the rule of thumb you have?
I think it is.
Okay.
My partner and I are in the process of developing a couple of other scripts, and on one of them, we're on the third draft, and we were actually very lucky to come in contact with get a little consulting from an editor that's worked on First Blood, Seven, Weekend at Bernie's, and she's been very helpful in kind of opening my eyes to some of the necessities in editing and why you need to cut.
So if, for instance, I had sent you a script. It's kind of a silly question, because I imagine script writers are probably used to it if they're accepted, so they're kind of used to it. But
right.
I don't say you're a dab hand at doing that, but it's always something I suppose you've got to think, okay, now I've got to tell them we want it, but
right.
And how do you?
And it's
just
very,
literally picking up the phone and saying, we love it, we're going to do it,
but yeah, it's hard because of course you don't want to insult anyone, and they've put a lot of time and work into it, but not everything, like I said, is necessary in the story. My writer has been very receptive to the fact of when I've said, even when there was, some part of the script he really liked, saying, I understand where you were going with that, but I don't think it helps the audience. And he's been pretty receptive. So as I said, it's my first production, so I guess I'll come across that more and learn how to do that better, or see different reactions probably from different writers. But in this case, I've been very lucky that he was very receptive to cutting.
And have you, did you have a career before you involved in film? Have you always been? No,
I have not always been. It's only been a couple of years I've been in the process of this. Actually, I was a stay-at-home mom for many years.
I hear all different so I love to know, because for me, the next question is, what on earth drove you to become a filmmaker?
Well, I've always been very interested in film. When I was young, I was interested in still photography, and I've always loved films, especially, drawn to old 40s and 50s films, even as a child growing up, very much, enjoyed that. So
you're a Rita Hayworth kind of loving, Bette Davis kind of loving.
Katharine Hepburn is one of my favorites. Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant, of course.
So best Christmas film ever. It's a Wonderful Life.
Wonderful Life, right? Or You Can't Take It With You. I love Frank Capra.
Brilliant. Because I think It's a Wonderful Life, when it was first released, was panned a bit. I think.
Right, I believe it was as well.
But a bit like we're going off piece. I do this all the time, so forgive me. A bit like Shawshank. That was panned, and no one went to see it, but of course it came out on video and word of mouth, and of course it's now top 5 of a lot of people's lists, isn't it?
It is.
So you just don't know.
You just don't know, exactly.
Sorry, I've interrupted.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. So so just the, my love of films, and then, like I said, my film partner, was also very interested in. We had the script, that we really wanted to do.
So you had something.
Yeah, so we actually had
Okay.
another script, a feature that we really want to do that's a psychological thriller, but the subject matter is like really dear to both of us. And I felt like the first production, I wanted to get my feet wet and learn before I jumped into that one. So we had this script of Trailhead, and I love to hike, and it was in the desert, so I felt a connection to that as well. And it was, that was very fun going out there. Rented a cabin in the desert for a month, to film, etc. So I felt like it would just really help me in any future productions as well. But I've become to dearly love this story and the characters in it.
And can you tell me? I know you said you had 300. Did you actually have to see 300?
No, we cut it down to between 100 and 120.
That's still a lot.
But still long, over a week, all day, every 5 days. 8 hours, 5 days we auditioned. And it was very interesting because I had my director there filming the auditions, and I read with the cast. And then
always the same excerpt, or do you mix it up as you go?
I'm sorry?
So, for instance, if I was coming for an audition, God forbid, because I can't act to save my life, would it be the same lines you'd feed another? Always the same?
The same for each character.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, and then but we did mix. So on the first round, we had the characters do the lines, and then on the second round of auditions, on the callbacks, we combined different females and males together to see how their
interaction,
their interaction and their the chemical reaction between them, what seemed to work best. And in the evening we would go back and look at I'd look only then what was on the monitor, and that's very different than when I was watching them in person.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And is it a hard? I mean, again, this is cutting through to what I perceive to be, when you cut away from the glitz and glamour, a lot of hard work. Is it an enjoyable process? Or is it very,
yes,
it is.
It is. I didn't find it tedious at all. I found it very enjoyable and really interesting. It was, and I felt like some of the people who auditioned said we allowed them maybe a little more time than sometimes happen. Like, I didn't really cut people in the middle of their audition. I let them complete the lines.
Even if you knew they weren't?
Even if I knew they weren't for us.
Them.
Yeah,
right,
because
okay.
they had spent the time to come in, and because I knew it was going to look different to me in the monitor when I saw it later. How it was going to come across on film was very different than when I was seeing them with my eyes across the table reading with them. So I wanted to allow them to finish and go back and look at the dailies of the auditions each night and make the decision.
And with the leads, did you know there and then, in the first instance, they were the ones, or did it take that the callback to really hone it?
Yeah, pretty much so. Although, I have to say, as the process started out, there'd be somebody that would come in and I would think, oh, I think they might be, great for this one. But then somebody else would come in and go, no, they're better for it, So that, my opinion changed. And we ended up with maybe about 12 that we brought back for to do some table reading before we made the final decision. Again, trying to see the reactions between people, and felt very lucky with the people we chose. And we ended up making one change. One of the characters in the script was Russian, and turned out we really liked this young actor who actually is also a very famous ballet dancer in Italy.
Right, okay.
And he's trying to get into the acting process as well, and he we wanted him for one of the two hikers, so we changed the character from Russian to Italian.
So that was done on the fly, because
on the fly.
That's
right.
kind of a question I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Did you stick pretty much religiously to it? Yeah, but
no,
obviously you didn't.
We didn't, no, because we really liked him and felt he really interacted well with the other fellow that we had chosen as the other hiker, which is interesting. That gentleman, his name is Alex Raymond, is up for the Best Supporting Actor, and we kind of felt he had almost the smallest role that the other characters were bouncing off of, and we just really saw something in him. It was interesting that he got nominated here, so apparently others have seen something in him as well. Yeah,
there's something.
Yeah.
And I know you came to this at a certain point in your life, and it's something you're quite interested in, but because it's incredible how many filmmakers, and this is the reason I asked the question, had another career. And lots of accountants, bizarrely. I don't know why that is.
Right.
Probably because you're sick of looking at numbers all bloody day.
Right.
I don't know. I guess it was, but I know the different spectrum. But in hindsight, do you think it was the right time, or do you wish now, having made films, you had the opportunity to make it earlier? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does totally make sense. In some ways, I wish it had happened earlier, because I did, do various things. I was involved in the health insurance industry and in, the restaurant business when I was young. And then after I had my children, I really wanted to be there with them. So I stepped out of the working world to be a stay-at-home mom and got very involved in whatever their activities and schools were. So part of me feels like it might have been better career-wise if I had gotten learned more younger, but I don't regret it because I wouldn't have wanted to miss that. And I feel like, I hope that my partner and I are not as young as a lot of filmmakers starting out, and I hope we're an example of you're never too old to go after your passions and start something new.
Honestly, genuinely, it's incredible how many filmmakers, and I'm not just spinning a line here, that I've seen and met have done something very, very similar, if not identical to you. And I used that account as almost a throwaway line, but there is one that I remember very well, and I said to him, well, you gave up a great career. He said, I did. He said, but I was just sick and tired of all the bullshit. I was basically going to meetings, and I was, telling people they're losing their jobs, and I was working out that eventually I was going to lose mine. I was sick and tired of all the rat race, and that's not an unfamiliar tale.
Right.
And interesting, a lot of them say the same thing, that maybe if they'd had a chance earlier, but actually the timing was probably right.
Right, and I think your life experience that you've gained along the way is very helpful as well.
Of course you do.
As opposed to somebody who's very young. They might have a lot of enthusiasm and passion, but I think life experience is also very helpful. By starting something a little bit later in life.
And no interest in being in front of the camera.
Right.
For you? No interest in being in front of the camera? Would you
No,
act?
No, not for me personally. I don't really. I actually had done a few things when I, in midlife of commercials.
Yeah. So you do know the gig from that point of view?
Yeah, so I do, but I'm not very comfortable in front of the camera, and I really enjoy the process of the casting, the filming, the editing, the getting involved in the story. So for me, that's really the draw. I don't have an interest in being in front of the camera.
And the vision and hope you had for the movie from the off, before you shot the first frame, to the finished the finished film, I should say, is that pretty much what you're hoping to get? Is it on the money?
Yes and no.
Right, okay.
Again, to be completely honest and frank, being the first film, there's some things I wish that we had developed a little better on the script while we were shooting, and I feel like it's a really good story. I'm proud of it. But if I were to, it was a great learning experience. If I was to do it over, I feel like I've learned a little bit about that process of where the script needs to go to make it more understandable to the audience. And being here and seeing a lot of other indie films, I've seen that in some other films too. Some, I think much more so than ours, that where you're not always sure what the intention of the filmmaker was. What was their purpose, or what is it that they're trying to draw out in this? But one thing I love that's happened is with indie films and digital, it just opens up the world to so many more people.
Yeah.
And I think it was going to bring out a lot of talent that might not have had a chance to get out there without this.
Absolutely. I mean, I see stunning films all the time. I always think, how are these people not here, there, everywhere? And it's hard to fathom, and I guess a lot of it is being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
life is.
I think it is.
You just need that one person to go, you know what, that is really brilliant, and just happen to see, and that's unfortunately life, isn't it?
It is, and I'm very grateful to folks like you running film festivals, because not only does it get us a chance to get our films out there, but to meet other filmmakers, and a lot of networking can go on that way. So I love the festival circuit as well.
Thank you. And there's worse places to be than the
exactly.
Course,
Yeah, well, that was kind of when we first started submitting. It's like, where do I want to go?
I don't know if you've been into Nice, but it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you going up to Cannes as well?
We are. Tomorrow, actually, we're going over to Cannes tomorrow, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Yeah, we've been accepted in a festival in Barcelona and London, so those are coming up. So that'll be fun as well to get to see a lot of cities.
Wonderful. So I know you're looking at all different projects all the time. What's the very next project? Actually, it's a twofold question.
Okay.
What's the very next project, and rom-com, anything like that? Is that something? Because you said you're into relationship films, so I'm
Right.
guessing could that be on the table?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. The next film that we're working on, the script on, is a comedy horror, and it's it takes place in New Orleans, and it's kind of based on an old Cajun myth called the Rougarou. I don't know if you're familiar
No.
with it, but it has to do with, it was brought over by, I think I think it started maybe in France, the Christians in France, that if you don't follow your Lenten vow, if you break it 7 years in a row, you become a rougarou, which is sort of like a werewolf. You know, it was a story told to the children to keep them, following their Lenten vow, and we've taken it with this kind of lovable loser guy who, every year he says he gives up alcohol for Lent, and of course he never gives up alcohol. He's convinced he does. But
why would you?
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking forward to that, to that one. And then we have another psychological thriller after that we have in the works, and we've actually considered, because we've had some great reaction for Trailhead, of going back and filming a little more with our cast and maybe turning it into a web series.
Right, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, we had an alternate ending for Trailhead, which we don't have at this festival.
Oh, you've filmed it. You've got it in the can.
We have it in the can, right?
Right, okay.
Yeah, and we, so we were toying with the idea of putting it in, but we didn't yet. But we want to do that, and maybe and bring the cast back and do a little more filming and turn it into a web series and see what happens with that.
Oh, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So, looking back on the whole experience, what's the one thing that you either weren't expecting or was a lot more difficult than you imagined? It could be in the round.
The sound. The sound was,
how many? It's unbelievable.
was by far the hardest part, and of course, especially filming outside in the desert. And sometimes we were up on the peaks of mountains, so you have that wind whipping. And we actually used lavalier mics and cell phones to mic, because we did a lot of wide shots, so we couldn't have camera booms in it.
And that worked?
It worked great, actually. It worked great.
So when you sent to the cell phone, you were talking about micing it into the recording device,
right? So
then matching that afterwards, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So it was tricky, because sometimes matching up, the film with the sound, the visuals with the sound, was a very tricky process and took us the longest. We filmed last February and March,
right, and
have been editing ever since. And I would say the bulk of the time has been spent on the sound.
Mm-hmm. So that really tells me that the recording devices on modern mobile phones are so good that you can actually do that.
Yeah.
If you've got a decent phone.
If you have a decent phone and a decent mic. We had like
a
a Rode lavalier mics, and they were great. They didn't pick up too much ambient noise. I mean, they did some, of course, but not too badly. And it worked out great. I feel like our sound is excellent now.
It's amazing, isn't it? Although I've seen films, we've had a film not at this festival, a couple of other festivals that have been shot entirely on iPhones or Samsungs in 4K.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know how they add a film. It looks probably in post. But even so, you look and you think, that's incredible.
Right.
On a bloody cell phone.
Right. And again, opens up so many opportunities for people, that you can do that now. So we didn't film it on the cell phones, but we did use the cell phones for the audio.
But you must have thought, well, hang on, this could be a cool feature.
Right. Well, yeah. Oh, yes, we did. We considered, have considered turning it into a feature and expanding and developing the script more so. But then as we've thought about it, we kind of think we like the idea of the web series instead, because we can, turn it a different way. And right now, the main character is Silva, the leading lady. But we'd actually like to take the supporting actor and kind of turn the story where he's the main character in the web series.
Because of how well he done in the film? And
Yeah, because how much we've seen something in him, and we think we've come up with some very interesting ideas and twists on, where we could take the story outside, and this almost be an episode, or maybe cut into, pieced into a couple of episodes, and then taking the story more about him as opposed to this couple.
Fantastic.
And being who he meets on the trail as opposed to who they met on the trail.
Yeah, I can see a twisting story.
Right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Susan, that's it.
Okay, well, I love meeting you.
Thank you.
The high desert. It's where wanderers go to survive, lies to die. And the normies got no business being.
Turns out she was cheating on me while I was coaching her son's team.
What is it?
Hikers.
Hi,
Hi, where y'all headed?
Kickapoo Canyon. Where are you guys going?
All the way to Mexico.
Any advice?
Just have fun.
Okay. Me too.
All right, I'm gonna leave. You can have your space.
I'm doing this with or without you.
It's a compass and the map. The knife. Hey guys!
What are you doing?
I'm done with her.
She seemed nice enough, man. Come on.
In my country, we kill the bitch. Must have gotten after her.
Silva!
Such an obedient man. What a lucky girl. Just not sure which one is the bitch.
See somebody up near that peak.
Just one person?
Well, let's hope the two lovebirds worked it out, huh?